This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Mark Magnuson.
Hello and welcome into Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today is Friday, March 17th, 2023. We're so glad you could join us for this, our St. Patrick's Day episode of AMPM. And in today's show, we will have video of Joni Ernst as she is going to be asking some questions to Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack on ag grant programs before the Senate Agriculture Committee. We will also have a check of the ag weather outlook, but first, let's run down the closing markets.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
At the end of another trading day, we are joined now by Tyler Schau of agmarket.net for our closing market analysis. Tyler, what did we see on the grain markets today?
Kind of a mixed grain trade today in the grain markets. Corn is up, soybeans are down, wheat is up. China came in and made another, not nearly as big a purchase as they have the last few days, but bought another 191,000 metric ton on a flash sale of old crop corn today, which takes them over 2 million metric tons for the week that got reported. So a nice little shock to the demand side. We've been looking for, especially China, but anyone to step in to start buying U.S. corn. We got some of that today. I would look for the export sales report to be fairly sizable again next week on corn. At the same time, yesterday, we finally got up-to-date commitment of traders information. So last night, the CFTC released the last commitment of traders report that should have been received last Friday. We got it last night. And basically what we found out this week is that spec funds or your managed money had like a 160 some thousand position on the long side in corn. They've taken that all the way down to, I want to say like 21,000 contracts as of last Friday now. So a big reduction in the managed money long position in corn, which is, obviously that's why we saw the big sell-off in the corn market over the last few weeks. Getting some of that back here with these export sales reports, which is what we've been saying for a long time. We need to see some sales so that we can get some of this corn moved and maybe push price back higher.
Tyler, going back to those flash sales to China, do you see that as more of a trend that might continue, or do you see that as a case of China wants a good deal and right now U.S. corn, they can find that deal?
It's a little bit of both. China has always been a value buyer. They're always going to, that's why we tend to tell people you can't really trust a lot of what China will say, because a lot of times they'll come in and say they're not going to buy any more corn. And the market reads that as a bearish signal and the price sells off, and then China comes in and swoops up a bunch of corn at a cheap price. So obviously, one, yes, they're a value buyer. Two, I wouldn't say we're the only game in town now, but one of the things that you've really got to pay attention to, or that maybe got lost a little bit this last year, was when the river levels got so low, we were still pushing product down the river. It's just our focus was getting beans down to the ports and getting them shipped out. Now that Brazil has kind of taken over that bean export program to the world, and they have virtually stopped shipping corn, we're pretty much, besides the Ukraine, we're pretty much the only exporter of corn that's left in the game through really the rest of this spring and summer. So I would expect to see it pick up. Usually we see our exports pick up this time of the year. So it's a seasonal trend, but we've got to pick up a lot of ground. So our expectations, we'll see that increase quite sizably over the next few months.
Tyler, what was the story today on the livestock side of the markets?
I think the cattle market's just kind of treading water, waiting to see what this commitment of traders, the cattle on feed report says here in another half hour. Most analysts expect to see reductions in placements in marketings and in cattle on feed again, kind of the theme going forward here for the next few months anyhow. We've seen a sell-off in both feeder cattle and fat cattle the last week or so, week and a half. This is largely a technical sell-off, and I don't think it's anything that the market should get too spooked about yet. Hogs have just been getting beat up every day for the last week. Something like a $10 drop in hog prices this week alone. I've mentioned this before on here that typically we see a reduction in supply when we go from the fourth quarter to the first quarter of the new year. And we're actually seeing kind of a contra-seasonal trend there where we're actually seeing supply increase. And I think we're just finding a hard time finding anywhere to go with all that product, and throw on fears of some type of an economic recession with all this banking issues going on. And that just kind of fueled the fire and pushed hogs lower. And, there's a lot of people hoping they found a bottom today. They kind of maybe acted like they did. They really sold off at one point. May hogs were down below $85, settled at about 86.77. So we'll see next week if maybe we didn't probe for a bottom and maybe start at least trading sideways, if not getting some gains back.
Tyler Schau of agmarket.net, our guest today. Tyler, how can our viewers and listeners get in touch for more great information?
Check us out on the website, agmarket.net, and if they want to call direct, the number 701-987-6009.
Thank you as always, Tyler. Have a great St. Patrick's Day. Have an awesome weekend.
Yeah, you guys too.
That was Tyler Schau with agmarket.net. Let's turn our attention now to the closing numbers, courtesy of the folks at Bar Chart. May corn up 1.5 at 634 1/4. New crop December corn up 2 3/4 at 561 1/4. May soybeans down 15 even at 1476 1/2. New crop November soybeans down 11 even at 1313 1/2. May soybean meal down 8 even at 466 even. May soybean oil down 27 cents at 57.46. Chicago wheat up 10.5 at 719 1/2. Minneapolis wheat up 10 3/4 at 859 1/4. Kansas hard red wheat up 14 even at 822 3/4. And July oats up 1 3/4 at 347 1/4. On the Merc, April live cattle down 2 cents at 162.32. April feeder cattle down 50 cents at 194.65. April lean hogs up 42 cents at 79.87. April pork cutout up 77 cents at 87.30. Class 3 milk for March up 6 cents at 18.06. And that's been a check of our ag market recap here on Ag Matters PM. We're going to go ahead now and take a quick break and hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. And when we come back, Iowa Senator Joni Ernst will have some questions for Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack on ag grant programs before the Senate Agriculture Committee. This is AMPM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today we have video of a meeting on Capitol Hill yesterday. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack testified before the Senate Agriculture Committee about the grant programs that are being used to help ag ventures. Iowa Senator Joni Ernst had some questions and remarks for the Ag Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here today. We've heard a lot about how the administration really wants to support rural America, but bottom line, we're not seeing a lot of action so far. We've seen a lot of spending, and Iowans, are feeling as if they've been thrown under the bus and not really seeing the benefit. A lot of the proposals and laws that I hear about when I'm out doing the 99 county tour, when we're doing the farmer roundtables to help support what we're doing in the Farm Bill, I hear a lot about the so-called Inflation Reduction Act and how a lot of how that was written really reads like the Green New Deal. And as we're looking at the Farm Bill, we want to make sure that what we're doing in the Farm Bill is actually working with our farmers, with our ranchers for their benefit, not the folks on the far left on the coasts of the United States. This is about middle America and providing food necessary for the greater population. We know that this administration is focused heavily on green energy, which on its own, that's great, but there is such an ardent push towards electric vehicles that, and you know how I feel about ethanol, that we have this ready-made available resource in the Midwest that's cheaper. It's a cheaper energy solution than some of the proposals, such as the electric vehicles. And we really feel that it deserves full attention. So I know ethanol biodiesel is not, it doesn't fall under the jurisdiction of this particular committee, but it is something that is very beneficial for our farmers. The president has been very insistent on returning to a number of harmful, overreaching regulations. And again, as I'm out across every one of my counties, and you know those counties very well, every one of those counties, when I do a town hall, when I do a farmer roundtable, WOTUS always comes up. And here we are returning to the Obama-era regulations of waters of the U.S. And it doesn't matter what group it is, farmers, small business owners, county secondary roads personnel, they are all just very upset about WOTUS regulations, and they feel they haven't been heard. So folks are struggling, Mr. Secretary. They're struggling in Iowa. They're spending more, they're getting less, and especially in the most rural of our communities. We've got to stop the out-of-control partisan spending. We need less regulations, not more. And so I want to focus on our livestock sector because this is maybe where you can help us out here. So Secretary Vilsack, the livestock producers were hit very hard during the pandemic. I have experienced a lot of hardships through various times and trials during my time here at the Senate, but the pandemic was probably the hardest to sit through Zoom calls and conference calls with our farmers and those that were going out and culling herds and their livestock because of plant closures. During that tough time, a lot of the producers sought to capture a greater share of the retail meat dollar by joining with other producers to build packing plants that they supply and own. And as you know, Iowa is home to Cattlemen's Heritage, which is building a state-of-the-art facility in Council Bluffs, Iowa, down near me, and West Liberty Foods, which is building a new producer-owned turkey processing plant in West Liberty, Iowa. In our neighboring state of Nebraska, there are similarly structured beef processing startups that are producer-supplied and producer-owned. So the USDA created the Meat and Poultry Processing Expansion Program to expand small and regional meat processing to bolster supply chain resiliency. And as you've described, quote, will give farmers and ranchers a fair chance to compete in the marketplace. End quote. So thus far, grants totaling $157 million have been awarded. So that's a good thing. We've got grants going out the door. Three of the largest grants total $69 million, which comprise nearly half of the funds awarded. Now, again, a lot of money's gone out the door. We think that's a good thing, but nearly half of it has only gone to three projects who are privately owned by some of the wealthiest people in the United States. One of the projects in Nebraska is owned by a man on the Forbes billionaires list. Another in Idaho is owned by the wealthiest man in the state of Idaho. And a project in South Carolina is being awarded to a privately held family business with production in 5 states. And hey, I have no objection to families succeeding and owning, a lot of businesses, and I wish them great success. But what I find problematic is that taxpayer dollars are being doled out as free grants to billionaires while applications from farmer-owned startups like Cattlemen's Heritage in southwest Iowa and West Liberty Foods expansion are deemed unworthy through these grants. So, Mr. Secretary, what is the criteria that has been used by USDA to determine who is getting grants, and why are we seeing that billionaires are being awarded those grants over smaller-owned startups?
Well, Senator, first of all, the Iowa project you mentioned is actually on the list that's currently under review. And we're in the process of finishing the environmental review that is required under NEPA before grants can be issued. So just be patient. I think you're going to find that that is a project that merits additional investment. That's going to be forthcoming. The level of investment is based on the application that people submitted. Some of these plants are very small. A Charles City plant, for example, very small, needed $8 million, and we provided it. A Cherokee plant needed several $1 million. We provided it. So Iowa's received several grants already, and I anticipate and expect they're going to receive at least one more for sure. And then there's the circumstance of the second round of resources. So the criteria is based on independently owned, that they're not the part of the big four packing operations. We obviously are investing in farmer-owned cooperatives that are in processing. We are very conscious of where the need is based on the consolidation of livestock operations and a livestock that's being raised. And so we're trying to make sure that we are doing a good job of spreading this out in a way that actually meets the market demand and provides these producers more than one market. And so we're excited about this. We think the 31 projects we've funded already are good projects and are going to expand market opportunities, but we have not stopped. But there are going to be more. For sure, there are going to be more, a lot more.
And I appreciate that, and thank you. I think it is important that we have support to some of these smaller, again, farmer-owned, operated facilities. I think the discouraging part is when we do see such incredibly large producers, those that are on the billionaires list, receiving, rather than a loan, they're receiving the free dollars from our taxpayers. But we can certainly talk through that as we look at some of these programs for renewal in the Farm Bill. So thank you, Mr. Secretary.
That was Iowa Senator Joni Ernst with some questions for Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack on ag grant programs. Let's turn our attention now to the ag weather outlook. We have partly cloudy skies for much of the state of Iowa here today on St. Patrick's Day, and it is feeling nice outside, but it still is a little bit on the cool side. However, that's just a beginning to what we will see tonight when it is really going to cool off. We will have temperatures lows in the single digits tonight around much of the state of Iowa. And then tomorrow we will warm up a little bit, but still we're going to have to wait a few days before we get some really nice feeling temperatures here in the state of Iowa. That's coming up next. As for right now, let's turn our attention to the National Weather Service and what's in store for the next 24 hours. As you can see from the National Weather Service, mostly sunny and windy around the state of Iowa today. High temperatures in the range of 24 to 36 degrees. Mostly cloudy and windy tonight, much cooler temperatures, lows in the 5 to 13 range. Tomorrow, partly sunny and windy. It will be a cool day once again with high temperatures expected anywhere from 20 to 28 degrees. And looking now at our affiliate weather map for Saturday, Cherokee, 20 degrees the expected high, partly sunny and blustery. Shenandoah, partly sunny and blustery as well with an expected high around 28. Des Moines, partly sunny and windy for Saturday, a high around 28. Albia also expected to have a high temperature around 28 degrees and partly sunny and windy conditions. Waterloo, partly cloudy and blustery with a high around 25. Clinton, mostly cloudy and blustery with a high around 27. For a more detailed forecast in your part of the state, make sure and check with your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate. And that's been a check of the Ag Weather Outlook. And that also brings us to the end of this episode of Ag Matters PM. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and LinkedIn. And you can find our video content and previous episodes of AMPM on our YouTube channel. Don't forget our free twice daily market podcasts, which are found on Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Mark Magnuson. On behalf of Dustin Huffman and Riley Smith, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.